it's an intimate relationship like no other because that person inside of you is eating what you eat, is feeling what you're feeling. Because when I would get upset when I was pregnant, I get upset with his father. He would move around, like knock it off, that kind of thing, right? When I get upset or whatever. I'm saying all this to say that when you lose that intimacy, because
Mhm.
when that baby comes out of you and that baby is allowed to live for a period of time or a long period of time, whatever, that relationship is still intact. And I can say that because my mother and I, she's getting up in age, I'm getting up in age, but we still have this connection
Yeah.
that surpasses all understanding, and it just does. Because she'll know what I'm thinking. She'll call me. One day she just showed up at my house because she felt that I was in some sort of sad situation or feeling sad or unhappy or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was. And she showed up at the house and she was like, it was just put on me to come see you and I'm just time with you. And I was like, wow, isn't that something? But it's a connection,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to stop the support system subject for a second because you also mentioned self help type situation.
Oh God, yeah.
Um, right. And I thought that that's brilliant because I think that plays into, you mentioned alcohol. I don't know about the alcohol thing.
Okay.
You know,
See,
I'm just saying.
that's why you need a good support system around you, someone who
See,
can identify some things. Because when my mother died, one more time, I was 18 years old. I stayed lit.
right,
I stayed lit. I was drunk every moment I could find. And those people that were around me, when you have a bunch of 18-year-olds surrounding each other, 18-year-olds that are in environments, none of them are that great. If you have a friend who at the age of 18 can walk into a store and finesse her way through several bottles of liquor because she knows which store to go to get the liquor. You're just hanging out and getting drunk with somebody because you're 18, and that's kind of what one of those societal things says you should do. Somebody
right,
should have been in my face taking me to get help.
right,
The one
right.
person who literally yelled at me was my god brother, Chris, because he saw me drink a pint of rum. And then he was like, I will beat your behind. All these
Right,
unnecessary threats. But
right,
the reality is, and the beauty of it is, I am not, nor have I ever been an alcoholic. But at that time, that's what helped me to just relax and forget. Had I been in my humble beginnings coming from New Orleans, Louisiana, it would have been a different story. My life would have probably had a really tragic turn because no one would have identified it as an issue. It would have just
a
been
problem.
Monday through Sunday. Because if you know anything about New Orleans, or at least that side of town, there will be liquor at the funeral. There's liquor at the
Right,
christenings. It's just part of, as we state, culture. So understanding the culture and understanding that person you care about and helping them get to that correct area where they can deal with that loss before they lose
right.
themselves. So
No, and I'm so
yeah.
glad you clarified that because I was going to tell you how I turned to eating and how I was,
Mm,
and we're going to talk about this at some point, right? But
mm-hmm.
I was just eating like nobody's business. So that does correlate because it is a form of self help, but unless someone says, hey, hold on, time out.
Right.
I see that you're going down the wrong path here, sister.
Yeah.
I'm going to need for you to pull it back, and I'm going to help you pull it back. But I also kind of want to talk about identifying your own area of, hey, you know what? And I understand that it could be difficult because, like you said, you were 18 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, one other caveat, you had mentioned that 18 was like the norm of society and all that stuff. I think I must have been like drastically delayed in life. I'm serious. I didn't start really drinking, and like you said it, I was like, no, she's right. Most people do. They'll
Oh,
start drinking at 18, hanging out with their friends. I didn't start until like I was like 22.
okay. So
Is that
here,
wrong?
no, there's nothing wrong with you. This is the set. This again goes back to culture. I'm from New Orleans. I had my first drink in my baby bottle. We
I'm
used
sorry,
to,
what?
yeah, I had my first drink in my baby bottle, and
Okay.
they used to give us beer to kill the worms. Now, I don't know if there was like a rash of worm outbreaks in New Orleans in the 60s where you had to give the children beer or mead
Okay.
or whatever to kill the worms, but I have yet to find documentation on these historical facts. I just know that at incredibly young ages, and again, it was environment, it's part of culture, it's part of a side of town where most people just don't give a damn what's going on that side of town, and
Right.
anything goes. And thankfully, again, in my mother's defense, she tried to put herself in front of as much of that as possible, which is why we moved out of New Orleans and out of the state of Louisiana and then out of Indiana where we wound up, and we she passed in California. But drinking is it's really not something to make fun of, because that is the
Right.
go-to spot for many people when they're trying to self-medicate because it's
Oh
the
yeah.
easiest to access. If
Yes,
I
but can I also? I'm sorry. Can I also just interject? And that's why we're going to talk further on this,
mm-hmm,
because the eating. I'm telling you, it started subtle and then it just got out of control.
yeah,
And so yeah, no, and it's easy. Like you said, I can go to McDonald's right now, and if I want a Burger King, I can go over there too, or Taco Bell, or what,
yeah.
whatever. We. I'm sorry. What were you gonna say?
Well, it's that thing that makes us feel comforted at that moment. And I didn't,
Right.
I really,
Right.
I wasn't, I haven't been coddled a lot in my life. I haven't been in that, even though I'm the youngest and the youngest is supposed to be spoiled and all that. Yeah, that bypassed all of me. I have had to make my own way, and being unfortunately a little bit too conscientious, not wanting to go against the grain, knowing about law enforcement and all that at a young age. I knew I didn't. I went to visit an uncle in jail, and that just scared the crap out of me. I was like, this is not a place I ever want to come back to again. So you need to hurry up and
Right.
get out.
Right.
So just knowing those
Right.
places I didn't want to go, my comfort did not come hardly ever from people. My comfort came from my mama bird's sweet potato pie. My comfort came from some bread pudding. My comfort came
Oh,
from stuff like that. And then I grew
right.
to a point where food wasn't comforting anymore, especially after my mama bird died. Nobody can replicate her bread pudding. And then I remembered how relaxed I felt drinking. And
Right.
I just, returned to that. And it was relaxing and it was calming, and it was not comfortable because there's a woman by the name of Lori, I won't say her last name, who can attest to some really bad decisions I made, one which ended with me hurling in an ashtray because I misconstrued it for a garbage can. True story. We can have her on
Okay,
the
so you
show to verify.
were you were you busting at it?
I was not butt naked. Um,
Okay, just double check. Because
Lots of
that was
still had my clothes on, but we still
all right.
discuss that
Okay.
to this day. And all of that was also an after fact from my mom dying. And I remember talking to Lori, and I didn't even know how to talk to anyone about my mom dying, because someone literally after my mother's funeral pulled me aside and asked me, when was I going to get a job? And what
Oh
was I going
wow.
to do with my life? And I'm like, okay, we just came from the gravesite.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I haven't had a
What?
lot. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. That just brought up another situation. My mom and I had attended a funeral of a family friend. Well, okay, let's back up. Our family friend's mother passed away, so we went to the funeral, and my mother can attest to this because we were sitting in the church, and it was actually a chapel. We were sitting in the chapel, and the guy that was the pastor or priest or whatever he was doing, he told the son, who's our family friend, he said, "You have 3 months to mourn."
Wow.
And I looked at my mom. My mom looked at me. And she said, "Did he just tell him that he had 3 months to mourn?" And I said, "Yeah, he did." And I'm not sure how he came to that conclusion. Like, why 3 months? Now, here's what I am going to tell you. our level and our duration of mourning, I think our purpose in talking about welcoming people to the lost and found is for people to understand that you don't have to get stuck there. You don't have to stop there. You don't have to become an alcoholic or, in my case, overeating to the point where you're morbidly obese. You don't have to do any of these things. It's going to be your choice and decision, and your choice and decision is also going to dictate who around you is going to be your support system and to help you through that whole process.
And I think
So,
that is a brilliant way to end this first segment of Welcome to the Lost and Found. So, anyone who found their way into our little chat, we'd appreciate some feedback from you in the comment section. Also, when we get into our next chat, we're going to have a discussion, and I think we need to go into one of the points, Frankie, about one of the best parts of finding something or determining whether or not you want to find that thing you lost is how to listen correctly. How to listen correctly and
that's
how
good,
to
right?
make certain that you are not interjecting your emotions into a situation you have no control over, and understanding that the person, your friend, your family member, or even a pet, okay, as odd as that might sound to some, when you have pets and they've been around you for a long time, they start to take on those emotions too. Just being able to listen will help you identify what that person needs until they can actually articulate the need. So, thank you for joining
Absolutely.
us on the Welcome to the Lost and Found. I'm Gil Washington,
And I'm Frankie Kunaho.
and we'll see you next time at the Lost and Found.
Bye.